Hey there, you guys. This is Dr. Campbell. I wanted to come here today and help you guys figure out how to do your metric measurements and upload them into Healthy. This is part of what you will be doing. It's actually part of your physical exam. It gives us a lot of information about your risk factors and some of the root causes that may be going on with you. And you wouldn't think that just a couple measurements would do that, but it does. So with no further ado, let's talk about our metrics and how we measure them. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find a full-length body mirror that you can see what you're doing. You want to make sure that you are that the tape isn't twisted when you're measuring, and there's a lot of other things that go into it, but essentially when you have that mirror you can see more of what you're doing and make sure that your tape is parallel to the ground and that it's not twisted so that you get a more accurate measurement. Using a cloth measuring tape. So this is the best and most accurate simply because it's bendable. It's soft and flexible, and so it makes it a little bit more accurate. Inexpensive places that you can find it are in sewing kits and in craft stores. Those are the best, easiest places to find a measuring tape. You may even be able to find it in your local CVS or drugstore or grocery store even sometimes. But I would stick to craft stores or drugstores when you're looking for one of these. You can also print off a tape measure off the internet. You can Google it and try and find something. It's not a perfect method, but in a pinch, it would work. You just have to be super careful when you do this, when you print it out and cut it out, that when you're actually using it, that you don't pull the tape measure too tight and then end up breaking it. So cloth is definitely the best. Don't use metal measuring tapes, things that you use for your around the house improvement projects. Those metal tapes are not flexible enough to do an accurate body measurement around your body, okay? You're going to want to remove your clothes because the clothes are bulky and they can create some inaccurate measurements. So this is pretty important step. Don't try and measure over your jeans or your clothes or bulky anything. You can leave your underwear on as long as it's a thin cloth, okay? So you need to know where you're measuring your hip and your waist. Your waist is measured halfway between the bottom of your rib cage, which is typically right about here, and the top of your iliac crest, which you can feel right on the side of your body. The top of that hip bone right about here. You're going to go about halfway between. Some places will tell you to measure at your belly button. The problem is that different people's bellies are shaped differently, and different people's belly buttons are in different places. So you cannot count on the belly button to tell you where to measure. You really need to feel for these landmarks. So you're feeling for that last rib here and the top of your iliac crest here. When you're looking at your hips, you're going for the widest part of your hips, typically speaking, and it's going to be across the greater trochanter of your hip. And I will show you some more pictures to give you a better idea so you guys can do this accurately at home. So again, you're feeling for this last rib here, and you're feeling for the top of the iliac crest here. And these are all felt from the side, all right? And you're gonna go halfway in between, and that's gonna be your waist, where you're gonna place your tape for your waist measurement. Here's another place where you can see it. Again, you can see the ribs here. This is your last rib, the top of that iliac crest, and halfway in between is the measure for the waist. And you can see that that's significantly, on this guy, is significantly above his belly button. And then these are the same measurements here across 3 different body shapes. And again, seen on this person who has clothes on, so she would have to make sure she lifts her shirt up to get an accurate measurement of her waist. But the rest is fine there. All right, just to give you guys some landmarks to be looking for. When you're measuring your hips, you want to make sure you're placing your feet together. This is true for your waist as well, but it doesn't impact your waist measurement quite as much as it does your hips. So you want your feet to be together. If you have them too far wide apart, they're going to increase your hip circumference measurement and it will be inaccurate. So you want to make sure your feet are together. All right. And this kind of just shows you from a couple different angles where you're going to measure your hip. Again, it's going to be right across from the greater trochanter, and I'll show you a better picture here. So this is your greater trochanter. So this is your upper leg bone where the ball and socket joint kind of fits into the hip. And this big piece here is called the greater trochanter. And you can kind of feel it on the outside of your leg when you feel around. And if you're not sure if you have the right spot, lift your knee up and then put it back down and you'll feel some movement of that bone, then you'll know you're on the right spot. And again, another picture of where you're measuring across the greater trochanter and where you would put your measuring tape, okay? All right, so that, and then you take those measurements and you're gonna upload them into Healthy. And then you're also gonna wanna calculate your your waist to hip ratio. And this is how you calculate it. It's pretty simple. Waist over hips equals your ratio. All right, and that gives us a good measurement to tell us more about your body shape, what we call anthropometrics, but it tells us a lot about your risk factors, whether you're more of a pear shape, meaning that your hip measurement is a little larger than your waist measurement, or whether you're more of an apple-shaped person, meaning you have more central obesity, or you have a larger belly than you have hips, right? So in two different women, you can kind of see this shape. This is more of a pear shape here, and this is more of an apple shape here. And this is obviously a gentleman who's more apple shape. It's very common in men to be apple shaped, that central obesity becomes a real issue for men, but it's also an issue for many women, and specifically postmenopausal women, it can become an issue. So, and it's an indication of increased visceral fat, so the amount of fat that's in the abdominal area. And this can be a sign of some other cardiovascular risk factors, and can be affecting insulin resistance, diabetes, your liver function, and some other things. So these are just some other cool little pictures to give you an idea of what we're looking for as far and what it kind of looks like when you look in the mirror, right? This is these are both apple-shaped people and these are both pear-shaped people. So it kind of gives you an idea of how that looks a little bit different, okay? And then as far as your weight, you want to have an accurate scale. A bathroom scale, a good quality scale is fine. But you always want to use the same scale. So even if it's a really great quality scale, a lot of times it'll differ from other scales. And so you want to be using and tracking all of your measurements on the same scale. So whatever scale you use for your initial measurements that you put into Healthy, I want you to continue to use that throughout the 16-week program and beyond. All right. I hope that this has helped you kind of figure out where and how to accurately do your measurements. I'm excited. Get it done. Get it uploaded into Healthy, and let me know if you have any issues. And then we'll talk about it in our consultation, what this means for you in addition to some of your history that you've given me. All right. Have a great day.